6 minutes. That's all it took for the US Navy to turn Iran's secret weapon into smoking wreckage at sea. Here's why that moment changed everything. The US Navy shocked the world when it intercepted Iran's secret invasion plan. In only 6 minutes, advanced American warships turned the ocean into a blazing battlefield. What was supposed to be a hidden strike ended in total failure, leaving Iran's forces scrambling for survival against superior firepower. Imagine preparing a covert naval attack for months, only to see it destroyed in minutes. That's exactly what happened when Iran's hidden operation clashed with the US Navy. Using the deadly killbox strategy, the Americans unleashed precision strikes that lit up the sea like a firestorm. Iran thought secrecy was its greatest weapon, but the US Navy had eyes everywhere. As the invasion force approached, radar and satellites tracked every move. Then, in less than 6 minutes, American forces launched a counterstrike that erased the threat before it could even begin. The killbox is not just a tactic, it's a trap from which no enemy escapes. Iran learned this the hard way. Within minutes, the ocean erupted with precision-guided weapons, leaving their operation crushed. The lesson was clear. Challenging US naval power comes at a devastating cost. At sea, every second counts. Iran's secret invasion force was confident, but the US Navy was faster. Within 6 minutes, the Americans deployed overwhelming firepower, creating a wall of destruction. The ocean turned into a blazing reminder of who dominates the waters. The secret invasion was supposed to be Iran's big move, but the US Navy was waiting. Drones, ships, and surveillance systems formed an invisible shield. Once Iran made its move, the counterstrike was instant. 6 minutes later, silence returned to the ocean, but the damage was done. How do you stop an invasion in less than 10 minutes? The answer lies in America's naval strategy. With advanced detection systems and the killbox approach, the US Navy boxed Iran in and unleashed firepower so precise that the sea lit up like a massive storm. Iran's gamble turned into chaos. Their secret naval force moved into position, confident no one was watching. But the US Navy had already mapped out the battlefield. In only 6 minutes, missiles and heavy artillery left Iran's forces broken and retreating in disarray. 6 minutes may sound short, but in warfare, it's enough to change history. The US Navy proved this when it dismantled Iran's secret invasion. Precision targeting, rapid strikes, and flawless coordination turned an enemy plan into an unforgettable disaster at sea. The ocean became a firestorm as the US Navy executed its strategy flawlessly. Iran's invasion was stopped before it even started. With overwhelming speed and accuracy, America's naval power once again reminded the world why it rules the seas. The US Navy didn't just respond, it anticipated. Iran's secret fleet thought stealth would guarantee success, but America's surveillance network had already spotted them. When the first move was made, US forces unleashed a crushing response. 6 minutes later, Iran's ambitions vanished into smoke. The world witnessed a masterclass in naval dominance. As Iran's hidden strike force advanced, the US Navy activated the killbox. It wasn't just firepower, it was precision and timing. In less than 6 minutes, the ocean turned into a blazing warning for anyone watching. Imagine being on a ship, confident in a secret mission, only to be surrounded by radar locks and missile systems. That was Iran's nightmare. Within 6 minutes, their invasion was reduced to chaos as US forces proved that no secret attack can outpace American technology. The killbox strategy is simple yet deadly. Trap the enemy, restrict their movement, and unleash overwhelming fire. Iran walked straight into it. Within minutes, waves of firepower cut through their fleet, leaving nothing but burning wreckage on the water's surface. Iran's operation was supposed to be silent and swift. Instead, it became 6 minutes of pure disaster. The US Navy, armed with unmatched technology, detected and destroyed the invasion force with surgical precision. The battle was over before it even began. The US Navy doesn't rely on luck, it relies on preparation. Long before Iran's secret plan unfolded, American ships and drones had built a trap. When the time came, the counterstrike lasted only 6 minutes, but its impact sent shockwaves far beyond the battlefield. In warfare, confidence can be fatal. Iran believed secrecy was enough, but the US Navy's sensors saw through the shadows. 6 minutes of thunderous strikes erased months of planning, turning Iran's invasion into nothing more than a costly mistake. The sea erupted with explosions as the US Navy unleashed its response. Iran's forces had no time to adapt, no chance to escape. 6 minutes of relentless firepower transformed their bold invasion into an unforgettable failure. What does 6 minutes mean in a war zone for Iran? It meant the difference between victory and humiliation. For the US Navy, it was proof of unmatched readiness. In a flash of precision strikes, the invasion crumbled, leaving the ocean glowing with fire. The killbox strategy turned the battlefield into a trap. Iran's fleet entered with confidence, but once locked inside, there was no escape. In 6 minutes, American forces had wiped out the threat, showcasing once again why the US Navy rules the seas. Iran's plan looked flawless on paper. A secret fleet, surprise timing, and a bold invasion. But against the US Navy, flawless doesn't exist. 6 minutes of concentrated strikes shattered the operation, leaving nothing but debris floating on the waves. The ocean became a stage for one of the fastest battles in modern history. As Iran advanced, the US Navy sprang into action. 6 minutes later, the show was over, an invasion force reduced to silence under America's unmatched firepower. It was supposed to be Iran's secret weapon, a move no one would see coming. Yet the US Navy was already watching. When the time came, missiles launched, and within 6 minutes, the so-called invasion force was reduced to a distant memory. The kill box is ruthless by design. Once an enemy enters, escape is impossible. Iran's fleet learned this truth in the harshest way. The US Navy turned 6 minutes into a masterclass of precision, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. At sea, the balance of power is clear. Iran attempted a bold strike, but the US Navy's response was lightning fast. 6 minutes of destruction proved once again that America dominates the oceans, no matter how secretive the enemy's plan. Iran thought secrecy would protect them, but technology doesn't lie. Drones, satellites, and radar tracked every move. When the fleet entered the trap, the US Navy responded. 6 minutes later, the ocean was quiet, except for burning ships drifting helplessly. Every second in battle is priceless. For Iran, each passing second brought disaster. For the US Navy, each second was another precise strike. By the 6-minute mark, the invasion was gone, erased by America's overwhelming speed and firepower. Iran's secret mission ended faster than it began. The US Navy had anticipated the attack, set the trap, and waited patiently. When the moment arrived, 6 minutes of relentless firepower brought an end to what was supposed to be a long campaign. Naval warfare isn't just about firepower, it's about timing. The US Navy proved it when it dismantled Iran's invasion in minutes. 6 minutes of chaos, 6 minutes of precision, 6 minutes that changed the outcome of the entire operation. The ocean lit up with explosions as the US Navy struck with pinpoint accuracy. Iran's forces, confident only moments earlier, now faced destruction. 6 minutes later, their secret invasion was nothing more than a failed gamble on the world stage. The US Navy thrives on speed. Iran's invasion may have been secret, but once detected, there was no hesitation. In 6 short minutes, the counterattack unfolded with devastating precision, turning a bold mission into an unforgettable defeat. 6 minutes was all it took for the US Navy to remind the world who owns the oceans. Iran's secret strike force never stood a chance. With drones overhead and warships locked on target, the sea turned into a deadly firestorm. Iran's commanders expected surprise, but they got shock instead. As their fleet advanced, US sensors tracked every movement. Then came 6 minutes of thunderous strikes, leaving ships in flames and the mission collapsing before their eyes. The killbox strategy left Iran with no escape routes. Once inside, their fleet was locked down and targeted from every angle. 6 minutes later, the ocean was littered with wreckage, and America's naval dominance was clear once more. History will remember this as the 6-minute firestorm. Iran's secret invasion force entered the battlefield confident, but the US Navy's response was swift and merciless. In less than 10 minutes, an entire operation vanished from the sea. At sea, silence is often a sign of danger. Iran's silent invasion was meant to be their advantage, but it became their downfall. The US Navy waited patiently, then struck with lightning speed. 6 minutes later, silence returned, this time with victory. Iran's gamble turned into a 6-minute nightmare. Their fleet thought it was unseen, but American technology exposed every move. Missiles, drones, and artillery combined in a storm of destruction, leaving the invasion force broken beyond repair. Naval battles can last hours or days, but not this one. The US Navy ended Iran's invasion in record time. 6 minutes of perfectly coordinated strikes proved that preparation and precision matter more than secrecy and surprise. The ocean glowed as explosions ripped through the night. Iran's forces had no warning, no defense, and no chance. 6 minutes after the first strike, the once-proud invasion fleet was reduced to burning fragments drifting in the waves. Iran's secret invasion was supposed to catch the US off guard. Instead, it exposed just how fast America can respond. 6 minutes of overwhelming firepower turned a hidden plan into a public defeat, reminding the world of US naval supremacy. The sea is unforgiving, especially when the US Navy is on guard. Iran's fleet tried to slip through unnoticed, but advanced sensors picked up every detail. 6 minutes of relentless firepower left the invasion force scattered and defeated. 6 minutes doesn't sound like much, but it's enough to end a war before it starts. The US Navy's rapid counterstrike crushed Iran's secret invasion, turning what could have been a major conflict into a 6-minute spectacle of dominance. Iran's plan unraveled in record time. The US Navy trapped the fleet inside a deadly kill box, where precision strikes rained down from every angle. 6 minutes later, the mission was over, leaving Iran stunned and powerless at sea. In modern warfare, technology wins battles. The US Navy proved it by dismantling Iran's secret invasion in minutes. Drones, satellites, and warships worked in perfect sync. 6 minutes later, the ocean was calm but the threat was gone. Iran expected a silent victory, but the US Navy gave them a thunderous defeat. 6 minutes of overwhelming firepower erased the invasion, showing the world how quickly America can transform a quiet sea into a blazing battlefield. The ocean lit up like daylight as US missiles tore through Iran's invasion force. What began as a stealth mission turned into a fiery disaster. 6 minutes was all it took for the US Navy to crush the threat and restore control. 6 minutes of chaos, 6 minutes of destruction, 6 minutes that changed everything. Iran's invasion force was confident, but the US Navy's lightning-fast response proved unstoppable. By the end, the sea belonged to America once again. Iran's forces believed in secrecy, but the US Navy believed in preparation. When the moment came, America struck fast and hard. In only 6 minutes, the invasion fleet was reduced to wreckage, proving who truly commands the seas. No second chances, no escape. That's the power of the US Navy's kill box. Iran's fleet entered with confidence, but 6 minutes later, they were gone, erased by precision strikes that left the ocean burning with defeat. 6 minutes defined the entire battle. Iran's secret invasion collapsed under America's unmatched naval strength. For the US Navy, it was just another mission. For Iran, it was a costly reminder. The sea is not theirs to control. For me, this wasn't just about 6 minutes of battle, it was a reminder of who truly rules the seas. And honestly, after seeing how fast the US Navy dismantled that invasion, I don't think any country would dare test them again.